You may proceed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Todd. Welcome everyone and to the 11th or March the 11th meeting for the Police Services Board. We have a special guest this morning, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. We have a motion to approve the agenda, and I'll ask the clerk for the approval of the agenda.
It's moved by Member Wirtz, seconded by Member Lalonde, that the agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you. Are there no changes? No changes to the agenda, as we know. All those in favor? It's carried. Just a sec, I have to put it down a little bit here. Okay. It's carried. Next, we have the minutes of the previous meeting. I'll ask the clerk to read the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Moved by Member Lalonde, seconded by Member Wirtz, that the minutes of the meeting held December 18th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
And thank you. Are there any questions or any discussion or errors or omissions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion's carried. I don't see everybody on the screen here. Is that I only see Mark and Jim and Graham. I should see everybody.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if you look on the right side of your browser, it should say View. If you click on Gallery View, that might help.
On the right side of the browser.
Up at the top, it should say View. And then if you click View and then click on Gallery View, that might, everyone might appear there.
Do not see that. Let me see this here. Access your meeting records summary. Okay. I had to get rid of something.
Yep.
It said dismiss, so I see Jim now. That's it. I don't see Todd though. Anyway, we'll keep moving on. If there's anything, if I can't see you, just speak up. Next, we have the conflict of interest. Is there anybody that wishes to declare a conflict? Seeing none. I'll move right to our presentations. We do have Mr. Graham Wright here. He's a police services advisor, and we're going to ask him to say a few words to give us a kind of a rundown in terms of what we've asked for in the previous through Kimberly. Graham, are you there? Yeah. I'll let you start.
I am, yeah. Thank you very much, and good morning, folks. Mr. Chair or Kimberly, wondering, sort of 10 to 15 minutes of comments okay this morning? Is that what fits in the agenda?
Yes, and if you'd like to share your screen to show your slides, that would be great.
Okay.
Well, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Happy to join, folks. Absolutely. And if someone could give me a thumbs up, they can see my screen, the presentation.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Sure.
There, you're on now.
There we go.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks very much, folks. So I thank you to the chair and the board, and certainly to Kimberly for your invitation this morning. This is one of the things that I have a lot of fun doing around the province, in particular in Eastern Ontario, speaking with boards about the CSPA and about compliance under the CSPA. As you folks know, many things changed in April 2024 when the CSPA came into being. It constituted detachment boards in particular. It did a number of things for the compliance environment for all boards in the province. And it in your case, it consolidated OPP detachment boards around detachment areas. So there have been a number of things that have changed in the last number of months, and I'm happy to sort of talk to what those changes are and what compliance looks like for you folks. A few of the things that we'll talk about today, and I won't cover everything in the slides, sort of due to the amount of time that we have this morning, but you folks have the slide deck. I would encourage you to read it and to review it. If there are questions for me, either email or call directly, or through Kimberly is totally fine as well. I'm happy to answer questions. And for your awareness, generally speaking, I am your free resource with respect to policing in the province. The Inspector of Policing has 6 liaison members who travel around the province and speak to boards and chiefs and detachment commanders and others about policing, including the OPP. So we really see ourselves as the compliance people, and sort of at the front of that is helping with advice and assistance and knowledge and understanding of the Act. So if there are takeaways from this meeting sort of after the fact, I'm happy to sort of circle back, as I am also happy to talk briefly about our province-wide inspection into a number of policing areas that was announced a few weeks ago as a result of some things that happened in Toronto. So I think that's a notable number of decisions for us to make, in particular in relation to police corruption and some of those areas. So if folks have questions, I'm happy to circle back. As you folks know, the CSPA came into force April 1st, 2024. I think the notable change is for detachment boards is really that the province wanted every single municipality to be represented on a board, and so it became untenable for the province to see sort of the growth of 300 plus police service boards. So a decision was made sort of early in the development of the CSPA that boards ought to be amalgamated around detachment areas. So that's how you folks were formed, and essentially the detachment area, most detachment areas have at least one board or one board in place to work between the OPP and the community. So you folks have several statutory obligations under the Act, and you also sort of grew into the reality of having to budget together and to nominate folks from your municipalities to the board. There were a number of sort of new activities that you had to undertake, including nominations and sort of vetting folks' background and working together to put folks on this board. So sort of want to commend you and other boards as well. There were a number of new aspects to the development of detachment boards, and here you are now. The Inspector of Policing was born in April 2024 as well, and we do a number of things. We do a number of things under the Act, including compliance and enforcement. The Inspector General of Policing has duties and authorities with respect to compliance, but we also have a number of abilities to issue directions to ensure compliance, to investigate complaints, to monitor and conduct inspections, and some of the stuff that I spend most of my time doing, which is providing advice and support to policing entities around the province. The net new and notable feature here is that everything that we do as the Inspector of Policing is going to be publicly available. So in the past, the Ontario Civilian Police Commission conducted a lot of the work that I've generally described. The OCPC did not make the bulk of their work publicly available. Everything that we do, everything that we touch is for public consumption and is reported on publicly. So you will see on our website, if you haven't been to our website yet, I would encourage you to do that. There are a number of pretty important decisions with respect to policing issues on our website. We're also monitoring cases, I think, in relation to the Durham Regional Police and some systemic issues that the Durham Regional Police had for a number of years. That information is on our website, as well as sort of updates to the file and how we're monitoring those issues. So all to say, the compliance and enforcement model in Ontario changed significantly, and we're proud to do that work in the province. One of the things that is relevant to the board case, in your case, is board member misconduct investigations is something we've received many of, or allegations of misconduct, that is. And so we have investigated many dozens of these complaints. We have many more to assess, but whether it's a fellow member of the board itself, or the public, folks have the ability to file complaints about boards and board members on our website, and we've received many complaints about board members around the province and about the way that boards have conducted themselves, whether it's board policy or board practices. So the compliance environment for everybody is a little bit more rigorous, I think, I want to say, than it has been in the past. A little bit about me on this slide, very briefly. The liaison, the inspections, investigations, and liaison branch is the branch who does most of the work that I've sort of talked about, generally speaking, whether that's inspections, investigations, or providing advice. That's the branch I work in. There's about 35 folks in our branch who do the bulk of this work for the province of Ontario. And we have an additional about 30 or 35 folks in a Center for Data, Intelligence, and Innovation who work with data and information to glean insights into policing around the province, which I think we're sort of baking right now, for lack of a better term. But what we are going to produce is going to be information and data and insights for public consumption and for board consumption about the state of policing in Ontario. So I think we'll have a lot more rich information on our website available for folks as time goes on. And of course, a little bit about what I do. You may see me at some of your meetings, maybe at least once a year or so. I try to get to all the detachment board meetings. There are 19 in Eastern Ontario. I try to get to once or twice a year at least to detachment board meetings, just to sort of follow the meeting and to be able to provide advice where necessary. So you will see me as your advisor in Eastern Ontario around. You may see me at OAPSB meetings or other places, but I do like to think about myself as sort of part of the regular conversation in Eastern Ontario. I do that to monitor local issues, to share information, to assist with folks navigating issues. In particular, I provided a lot of advice about complaints about boards and board members. Lately, there are some statutory obligations for boards to navigate if they receive complaints about themselves as a board or a board member, and obviously building relationships around the province to make sure that you folks can find me, and the same is true to support each other. So I may skip this slide, just sort of interesting. Again, we've got six advisors around the province, and the map to the right sort of shows you how the province is divided up. So I think the stuff I want to focus on a little bit today is generally captured on the slide in front of you. And I just want to revisit the board's statutory obligations under the CSPA, and just sort of remind folks what they are and what they may look like, and some of the obligations for the detachment commander as well. And I'll start with one that's not on the list, but it's one I get a lot of questions about, and that's the development of the board's strategic plan or local action plan. And so what's changed from the past is that the board no longer has to develop a strategic plan. There were boards in the past who thought that the local action plan of the OPP was sufficient for having a strategic plan in place, but that's not consistent with my reading of the Act. And there were many OPP boards who had their own plans in place, of course. Under this Act, the development of the local strategic plan is the responsibility of the detachment commander. And the detachment commander not only holds the pen, but has the statutory and legal obligation to develop the plan, to consult the community in a number of different areas, and bring back to the board for conversation the data, the insights, and the evidence to have a thoughtful conversation about planning as it relates to your board. So I think this is a change. It's notable. It's less work, obviously, for boards. Significantly more work for detachment commanders in particular, and the OPP. But expect, if you haven't already, that you will be having these conversations with your detachment commander, and that the feedback and insights that you provide to support the development of that plan, those are incredibly important. So I would take those opportunities sort of seriously, and if there are questions along the way, I'm happy to assist with those questions. But I just thought I would touch on that one briefly, because it's something that I've received a number of questions about, and obviously you know, for you folks, a little less work for the board, a little bit more work for the detachment commander. But in any case, with respect to your statutory obligations under the Act, participating in the selection of the detachment commander. It is something that is a shall, not a should or may. You folks do have a legal standing in that process. Of course, you know, the apparatus of human resources in the background at the OPP is quite significant. It's something that is not your prerogative. So there are things that happen with respect to detachment commander selection that are maybe not directly your prerogative, but with respect to sitting on the selection panel, providing information, providing feedback, those are all things that are very well in bounds for you folks. And also the Act sort of provides that to remind boards and municipalities that they do have standing in the conversation about who is the detachment commander. And it sort of speaks to the second last point on the list as well, which is monitoring the performance of the detachment commander. And now there isn't sort of a structure in place for monitoring performance, but this is something for you folks to come up with in terms of what you think is fair. I know that the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards has some tools for monitoring performance, but you as a board do have the autonomy to not only select but provide performance feedback in relation to the detachment commander. And you may ask the question, I mean, what's that performance feedback about? I mean, that's sort of less the interpersonal stuff. That's less the items that the OPP sort of corporate human resources folks would take care of. But I think what you're really judging the detachment commander performance on is the local action plan and whether or not some of the outcomes in the local action plan are being achieved. That signals to you folks that the feedback that you provided to the detachment commander and the OPP are things that are being generally achieved, right? So in terms of performance, that's sort of a great objective basis on which to provide feedback. And certainly if there are interpersonal or other observations that the board wants to make, you're able to have those conversations as well. But the process itself is to you folks how you want to provide performance feedback. Some are done through conversation, others are more rigorous sort of performance related conversations. And I think this is one of the decisions that you as a board need to make about how it is that you want to actually engage with this process. Another one of the bits that you will see in the Act is receiving regular reports from the detachment commander. This is something that I get a number of questions about on a regular basis as well. I will commend the OPP. I think there have been some excellent improvements in terms of templated information that the OPP gives detachment boards. But in my reading of the Act, there are a few limits to what the board can actually ask the OPP about. And sort of the limits are things to do with policing operations or individual investigations or individual people. Those things are out of bounds for you. But of course, if there are questions or lines of questions that you folks want to ask about youth crime or about speeding or about other things that are of interest to you that are beyond what you see in the templated reports, the board is welcome to ask about those, to make inquiries, to direct the detachment commander, ask the detachment commander to gather information on those topics. So what I would say is that I know that all the boards in the province, all the detachment boards are receiving regular reports from the detachment commander, but those reports don't demonstrate the limits of what you folks can ask for. So there ought to be some discussion about what it is that you need to satisfy yourself that, you know, what you're investing in is happening and to what extent, and also to what extent you're being successful in achieving the outcomes in your strategic plan. I think that's important as well. So certainly any lines of questioning that you can develop to validate that you're being successful and you're getting the information you need, those are all in bounds for the board. In that respect, advising the detachment commander is something that's key to you folks as well. That feedback to the detachment commander, not only about the plan, but about sort of how policing is provided by the detachment is absolutely in bounds for you. Determining objectives and priorities through that conversation about the strategic plan, but also sort of monitoring objectives and priorities is key for you folks as well. And then obviously establishing local policies with respect to to policing is something that you can do under the Act. And interestingly enough, the Act says that the establishment of a policy that is established in a fair way does actually provide direction and legal direction to the OPP through the detachment commander. So in areas where the board sees a need for the development of policy, you can do that. And I think those policies do have weight as well. So if that's relevant to you, fantastic. Many boards have said to me in response to this presentation and these conversations, we don't have a need to develop policy, and that's fine, right? If that's your reality, that's no problem. Other boards have taken policy development on in a big way, and they've provided the direction and certainty to the OPP about what they expect, not only in meetings but with respect to service delivery in those policies. So, I think there's a range of responses to that ability under the Act. Folks, I'll just pause there for 3 or 5 seconds. I wonder if there are any questions. I know that's a lot of information in a short period of time, and then I'll wrap up if there are no questions.
Any questions so far?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see us, Brian. It's Martin.
I see you, yes.
All right. I have a question, or maybe a couple. You talked about investigating a lot of complaints about board members, and can you give us some example, just so I can get my head around, like the kind of things we'd have to be careful of, the kind of things that we should be making sure we're doing so that we don't have complaints?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question, and there are a couple of different examples that I will provide that I think will be helpful. I think that with respect to handling complaints, that's something that OPP boards and boards generally are used to handling in a certain way. And under the Police Service Act, if a board or board member received a complaint, it would be common, it was more common certainly, that the board or member would send that complaint to the detachment commander and say, received a complaint from a member of the public, I'm sending this to you, for your consideration. And it was less likely that the board or member would be involved in sort of what happened thereafter, but it generally went to the OPP. That's not the case anymore. So when you receive a complaint as a board or as an individual member, you must do something with that complaint, and it's either forwarding it to the law enforcement complaints agency or to the inspectorate of policing. And so there are some fairly rigorous rules around what gets screened in this complaint and not screened in this complaint. But I would say generally, if any of you receive anything, or the board receives anything, or Kimberly receives anything that could be construed on any level as a complaint, it needs to be forwarded somewhere. So I consult about these things almost every day. What I would say to you folks, if you are uncertain about what it is or what the rules say, call me, we'll talk through it. I'm happy to provide you with advice, but that's a big change. And I think that where boards have mishandled complaints, I think that's an area of risk for boards. And the second area of risk, and why this is such a good question, the second area of risk, I think, is I'll sort of call it the two hats principle. So there have been members of council and mayors in particular, and one mayor, I guess it's public now, so I can sort of speak to it, but the mayor of Gananoque was subject of a complaint. And sort of the thesis of the complaint was that the mayor had said something as a member of the police service board that was not appropriate and not appropriate to share. And sort of the mayor took the position that he shared the information as the mayor, not as a member of the police service board. And the analysis from the decision from the Inspector General of Policing was that members who are either mayors or council members are also always members of the police board. And so there are circumstances where either council members or mayors need to be extremely careful sharing information, because if it can be construed that information was shared in an in-camera meeting, for example, or shared with the mayor or member of council in confidence, and you're using that information for another purpose, that's misconduct under the CSPA. So that decision from Gananoque is incredibly helpful and useful for mayors and members of council. It is on our website if anybody wants to read it, but that is certainly an area of risk for boards, and one that has happened more than just the Gananoque case. So just sort of a word of caution as well. So great question.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
I have another one, Brian, if nobody else has one, but
sounds like Quint, go ahead.
okay, I'm more than willing to wait, but
No,
anyway, I want to talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on how much we should ask or inquire, and it's about staffing, and simply because I know that there's a decent percentage of people that are off on leave, and I think that's I assume that's I don't know, in the municipality it's very private, but so do we, if we want to ask about staffing, do we ask about generality, like, just how many people are off, or should we know that? Just I'm a little uncomfortable around that conversation, even asking those questions. I want to know what your thoughts are, what we should be asking, because it does affect us, and it does obviously increase our overtime and this sort of thing.
So another excellent question, and thank you very much for it. What I can't speak to is the OPP internal policies on what can be shared and what can't be shared. So obviously there are matters about folks being off or away or not fully deployable that are not an issue for us to talk about, right? So, and I think it's obvious that would be the case. I will say at the same time, though, as someone who goes to almost 100 meetings a year, whether they be detachment board meetings or municipal police service board meetings, I guess just in the detachment board case, I'm hearing detachment commanders talk very regularly about staff deployment. And so there are some detachment commanders that I cross paths with that talk about staff deployment in terms of the overall percentage that they're reaching to, folks that will be joining the detachment and how that will change their deployed strength, the folks that are off sort of medically, the folks that are off for other reasons like parental leave, that type of thing, the folks who are not fully deployable. So there is some variability in terms of where those conversations are had. I would say that, again, about individual people and individual cases, that's out of bounds, right? But I do hear detachment commanders talking about this, and more I hear boards asking about it. So I know that it's important for you folks. And I will say under the Act, municipalities that have contracts with the OPP, in the contract for policing services, it does say that the OPP will provide adequate and effective policing. So that is the OPP's guarantee that the level of service that they provide will be legal and will be adequate and will be effective. So I do think it's something you folks should ask about, because that guarantee is there in writing. The assumption that the OPP is being successful in achieving that guarantee is high, right? I mean, I don't think anyone's kept questioning that. But to what degree do we have staff, and to what degree are we engaging in overtime, and to what degree are staff moving around? Those are all good questions, as long as they sort of stay sort of in the generally speaking category rather than about people. And I would say happy to defer to the detachment commander as well in terms of what is realistic to be shared and not. There seems to be some variability between areas of the province in terms of what's shared or some of these practices. So there may be considerations that I'm making light of that are more difficult than my answer.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions for Graham at this time?
Mr. Chair, Todd here.
Go ahead, Jim. Jim Wirt.
Yeah, Todd, do you want to go ahead or?
Thank you, Jim. Just following up on Mr. Lang, and thanks again for being with us here today, Graham. I appreciate it. I've been fortunate to attend a few sessions as well as a conference where a lot of this conversations went on in regards to what boards are supposedly, you'll use the word supposedly allowed to ask or not ask or be part of or not part of. And Graham, you and I have had some general conversations as well. In regards to staffing, we do see it across Ontario. We've witnessed it, and I've saw reports where names, again, recognize and realize names can't always be a part of it, and we understand that. But levels and numbers, I don't think a question that we can't ask. For the simple fact is we're approving the budget as Mr. Lang referenced. I mean, at the end of the day, the budget that's approved is reflected by the staffing levels or who's in what role or what jobs open, or what jobs not open, and so forth. Not indifferent to how municipalities operate. So I think that's vital to see that report. And we do know what's happening across Ontario. It's not new. It's happening. As well, if you don't mind me asking again, Mr. Graham, Mr. Right to you, is at these conferences and sessions that we've attended, it's been quite clear and it's resonated quite thoroughly in regards to how we should be known as not only supportive to our staff through our front lines and our administration, but they should know who we are as a board. And I do know our chair does represent us here and there at different events, but I think, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I do know I've heard it at the conference where it's important that board members are invited to different events, again, recognizing that the chair is a speaker, and to be not only supportive of our board members, but let them know who we are. We do support what they do every day. And you also made mention of policies. Governance and policy are a big part of boards. And at the end of the day, if policies are there and we do have power, if we use or choose not to use, that is a way of getting opportunities to see or hear stuff that we're legally allowed to receive. So I'm not sure if I'm saying anything wrong or right here, but maybe you can correct me if I'm going down the right road or wrong road on any of those suggestions I made, which did come out of sessions and a conference last year.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lalonde. All great thoughts. Sort of your last thought first, with respect to policy. The development of policies by OPP detachment boards is sort of an unexplored new aspect of the Act. And so there will be, probably through some formal process, there will be decisions made about the limits of what those policies can do. But what I would say is a very fair way to use policy is to define for the OPP your expectations on information sharing, because that doesn't have to do with policing operations. It does not, impact the sort of the internal orders of the OPP. It shouldn't be something that impacts sort of frontline service delivery. But in terms of information sharing, to say to the OPP through the detachment commander, formally and directly, these are our expectations with respect to your sort of quarterly reporting or your annual reporting, however you want to break it out. That may be a good use of policy. So I do agree with you that there are probably some very constructive uses of policy. That would be good for the board, obviously. That would be good for the OPP in terms of creating certainty about what your expectations are, when you expect that information, and certainly ahead of a budget discussion, for example. You folks and the municipality need to have all of the information that they need to make decisions about budgets and how best to support the OPP. So, and in some cases, it's not just about paying the bill too, right? So I think this is where we get caught up with the OPP budget conversation. I think sometimes it's about whether or not we want to pay the bill that the OPP give us. But there are conversations above and beyond that about how to support members in different detachment areas, to support frontline members, sort of without crossing that line between operations and governance. But there are things that detachment boards are doing above and beyond sort of the minimum standard to support members, support the detachment commander, and to support the OPP that I think create better policing, and create a better sense of belonging in a detachment. So I would say that conversations about the budget and conversations about financing the OPP, I think are one thing, and that's why you need information. But you also need information to figure out how to best support sort of everybody, you know, in the detachment area. So I guess this is not only about compliance, but it's about you folks making intelligent decisions and knowing how to sort of make public safety the best that it can be. So I will say the OAPSB, Ontario Association of Police Service Board, certainly has a lot of their own perspectives about the degree to which boards should be involved as well. I think those are great perspectives. My perspective is more rooted in direct compliance. So you know, I think there is sometimes a little difference between how they talk about the board's role and how I talk about the board's role, but we're on the same page at the end of the day, right? I'm sort of wearing my more strict compliance hat, but all good thoughts, Mr. Lalonde, and I'm happy to see you at those OAPSB conferences and events, and I think that the board should be encouraged to do that more.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions up till now?
Brian,
Yeah.
if you may, Brian?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Jim?
Through the chair, and thank you very much, Graham, for your time here this morning. I see a very clear plan for evolution of the police boards. We've come a long way, it seems, in my mind, in a very short time. But is the product that we're seeing in front of us now in regards to our responsibilities and communications essentially the final product, or do you see the police board's role continuing to evolve to something with more power than we currently have?
So great question, and thank you very much for it. The statutory obligations that, I'll just back up one slide here. The statutory obligations that are sort of captured on the slide in front of you folks are generally speaking your statutory obligations as a board. At this point, I have no evidence to suggest that those are going to evolve from where they are now. The act was written in 2019. It was proclaimed in 2024. There was no change between 2019 and 2024, and no proposed changes are being contemplated at this point. So the short answer is no. I don't see the board's statutory mandate evolving at this point.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Graham, you mentioned that you like to visit each police board in Eastern Ontario. I was wondering, is it an invitation that you wait for, or is it just something that you contact each board member, each board, to find out where you want to go and when you want to go?
Well, so thank you very much. That's an excellent question as well, and so I never make a habit of showing up before I tell you I'm going to be there. But you know, one of the things that I do like to do is to sort of keep tabs on the development of boards as well. It's probably no secret. I mean, from April 2024 forward, some detachment boards were a lot quicker, sort of getting up to speed and becoming compliant than others. So I have some detachment boards that I work with more sort of intimately and regularly. You know, folks, if there are no in particular challenges, you know, if you folks are functioning as a board at a high level, if you don't have regular questions for me, you'll probably see me less. But you know, in any case, it is part of my sort of job duties is to monitor boards for compliance, to make sure that folks have the information that they need. So I usually do that in person. If it wasn't for the weather today, I would have been there in person. But yeah, it's sort of a normal part of my job duties, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. So you probably will see me at least once a year, and certainly if you ever have an invitation or a need to reach out, I'm a phone call away.
Okay. Does, like, municipalities, do they have any influence over policing priorities because of the costs that are involved with rural municipalities, which they find it, you know, unsustainable for the costs involved in their budget? So do they have any influence at all in terms of what the decisions are?
Yeah, so the municipalities do, with respect to, you know, the the planning piece, which I think is sort of the key to driving outcomes and to being successful from a compliance standpoint, that's really between the board and the OPP. The municipality doesn't sort of have direct standing in those conversations, but I know it's something that it is very interested in. And ultimately, you know, there is one municipality that, well, a number of municipalities rather than in your case that pay the bills, but you know, there's sort of one taxpayer as well that's responsible for sort of making sure that municipalities can fund what they need to fund, right? So I'm certainly aware that the conversation about the sustainability of policing is at issue around the province. There haven't been any substantial changes that I've seen in any municipalities in terms of addressing the conversation about the overall cost of policing. What I would say is in every single municipality, all 444 of them across the province, this is something that's top of mind for folks. So I wouldn't say I've seen anything sort of different or innovative or new yet. Although I think in the municipal policing world, I know some municipalities are talking about, you know, potential policing options processes to evaluate what they have in place. And I know I caught in the news this morning that I guess Prince Edward County just passed a motion to, you know, formally discuss policing costs as well. So listen, folks, I know that this is sort of with you and at the top of everyone's minds, but you know, in any case, that, you know, the system that we have in place is and what the OPP deliver is consistent with their statutory obligation and consistent with their understanding of what communities need. And obviously, in every case, whether it's the OPP or a municipal police service, there is a cost attached to providing that service. So what I would say is, you know, the board, I think, has a wonderful opportunity to share information with the municipalities, to sort of rationalize the cost of policing, to speak well of the OPP and police officers in terms of what is provided, and about you know, how essential policing is in their municipalities, right? So usually it's detachment commanders who are out front and sort of answering those questions and doing the work, but there are no limits to the extent that the board can also be involved in those conversations. And I think that starts with the detachment commander and the board sharing lots of information, having healthy discussions about policing, and you folks understanding what actually goes on sort of out there in your communities. I think that's sort of a key to being to stewarding the policing conversation forward. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other questions before Graham moves on? I don't see any hands up, so you know, if you want to continue the rest of your report, Graham.
I think at this point, I sort of want to say thank you. I had one more slide left. I'll leave it with you because I know I'm a little bit over time this morning, but I had one more slide left just on some of the remedies that the Inspector General can put in place. And I will say that one of the features of the Act, I think that's notable, is that the Inspector General can remove board members, disband boards, remove chiefs of police, can even remove the commissioner of the OPP if the circumstances warrant. Now, I think that would be something that would be wildly extreme, but we do have the ability to make directions and orders with respect to policing in Ontario. So just sort of a reminder of what the compliance environment is, not only that we are assessing and monitoring compliance, but we do have a number of remedies in place to direct policing entities to be compliant as well. So I think that the statutory framework that we have in place is a vast improvement from where we were in the past. So I think that was my last comment, and then I had one more slide just with respect to questions. So yeah, folks, I can leave it there if there's no more questions.
Okay, thank you. See no more questions.
Okay.
For you, Mr. Chair, I have Graham's PowerPoint. I can share it with all of you via email so that you have it for yourselves for a reference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thanks, folks. Thanks for the invitation. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today. I hope you all drive safe and stay away from the ice and bad weather. And hopefully the spring comes soon for you.
Thank you very much, Graham. We appreciate you being there and giving us an overview of the Community Safety and Policing Act. I want to thank Todd Lalone for suggesting you actually come to the meeting and give us some insight of the new policies and regulations that came forward over this new act. And there's lots of information to absorb here right now. So we appreciate everything. And if you said if there's any more questions or anything like that, you're available for any time that we could give you a call or send you an email, ask you if we have any concerns about anything. So we appreciate
fantastic. Yeah, it sounds good, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much. And thank you to Kimberly as well for coordinating and for her email inquiries. I know Kimberly knows where to find me, so it's all good.
Very good. Thank you again. Have a great day. Weather that storm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for your questions and comments. We'll move to items for discussion. 6.1 SDG OPP report for December 2025. And we'll ask the clerk to read the motion and we'll listen to the report.
It's moved by Member Wirtz, seconded by Councillor Lang, that the SDG OPP Detachment Board receive the SDG OPP report.
Thank you very much. Mark, do you want to start us off?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, I'll just deliver my report. So simply starting on page 6 of your report, I would just like to highlight a couple of things in the report. So particularly the first paragraph, just dealing with the statistical report. Simply in the way the OPP collects its statistics, we're always about 2 to 3 weeks behind before they become available, and that is just from a reporting matrix. So in consultation with the CAO and the clerk, we are going to now the report you will be provided will have a 1 quarter calendar delay to it. And it's just to make sure that we're delivering you the most accurate information at the time that I am delivering it, so we're not missing anyone, because the last report or the last couple of reports I have delivered to you have always been missing a month. So given our schedule, we thought that would be best to be able to deliver the most accurate information. So contained in this report, it will be very, very similar to the last report I delivered to the board. It will simply contain the complete statistics from the December 2025. So this will wrap up our calendar year for 2025. So just a couple of areas I would certainly like to highlight, and this actually. Mr. Wright's presentation to the board and to us was actually very, very timely. He brought up some great points. So also in the future, what I'm going to try to do is anytime I am delivering the report, those areas that we discussed as a board with regards to the strategic plan and those areas that have been identified in the strategic plan, I'm going to try and reference those every time back to the report, so the board has an idea of what the detachment is doing and what we are doing, trying to achieve those goals, whether we're meeting them, whether we're falling short. The board, there are no secrets. I always repeat it, right? Traffic safety is a huge priority for not only the board, for council, for members of the community. So I always like to reference that. I always like to start there. So just taking you to page 9, you can see that overall we are having a decrease. We are having a decrease in overall collisions from 2024. You'll notice the biggest decrease would be the property damage ones. So one area that we are seeing a marked difference, and that was one of our problematic areas, is the what has occurred in October, November, December for that year is the completion of the roundabout at Highway 138 and Headline Road, right? We used to have, that was a four-way intersection. We used to have a lot of collisions, and now that that roundabout has been complete, we're seeing a dramatic decrease. And some people were concerned, right? We didn't have a lot of roundabouts in SDG. People were starting to get used to them, but now we've got a couple three, around County Road 2. So people are becoming very familiar with them, very familiar with how to navigate them. So we are seeing that decrease. With regards to the fatal injury collisions, there was only one during the reporting quarter. So I'm extremely I am pleased, although any loss of life is tragic, and I always think of the families and those involved. Certainly the trend that we saw earlier in the year, where we saw quite a large spike throughout the United Counties, that seems to have, our targeted efforts seems to have significantly improved things. I would like to take you down to page 11, which is our violent crime statistics. So just looking at those as a totality, right? We continue to see and violent crimes right across the province are trending downward altogether. So I'm pleased to see, right, that you are seeing the violent crimes just decrease altogether. So that is a good thing, right? To know that those types of offenses are decreasing. Taking you to page 13, our youth crime continues to fall, right? We had quite a large spike in 2023. The spike in 2023 was very much related to theft from unlocked vehicles. We had a lot of youth going around, especially in South Stormont and some of the more built up areas, right? They were entering unlocked vehicles, stealing change, stealing whatever they could get their hands on. So that's why we're seeing quite a decrease. We actually, and also when I talk about the youth court, I would or the youth, I will just bring it to the board's attention that the Cornwall Crown's Office, so the Cornwall Court, and the Cornwall Community Police Service have been selected as a pilot. They are going to be moving to something called the diversion court, where the hope is that for some nonviolent crimes, especially those involving youth, there will be a diversion court where it is a quasi judicial court. So they don't actually ever appear in the justice system. So what we're really hoping is to continue, to see those diversions come up, because, if we can, divert a youth from the justice system, put them back on the right path, using other means, that's always what we want to do, right? Once we put them in the justice system, and move them through the formal system, right? That's generally when we see some, we see some repeat, and we just, again, we really want to divert the youth away from the justice system and police contacts altogether. And really try to, if they've had a bump in the road, not let that bump in the road affect them, into their adult lives. Taking you over to page 20. And this is more for the board's, sort of future awareness. But when we look at our Mental Health Act occurrences, right, 2025, we're sitting about 407. I would caution the board that you're probably going to see an increase in 2026 for Mental Health Act occurrences, the total, and you're going to see increases, year quarter over quarter. That has nothing to do with the calls for service that you're going to see. It has to do with what I put in the opening, right? Our newest, because of the enhancement grant, our newest worker is now working with us. So they are spending a lot more time in the communities, promoting the program, and they're spending a lot more time, especially working with some of our more elderly, vulnerable populations. So they are going to be getting a lot, not calls for service that are coming in through our dispatch, but they're going to be getting a lot of more internal referrals. However, we still have to classify those in our internal records management system. So it's not going to be our frontline patrol that is going to be dealing with these calls. It's actually going to be the MCRT team, but you are going to see that increase because now that we have two teams, right, we can do double, we should technically be, doubling our work capacity. And I meet with them on a monthly basis to see how things are going. And, we've really got a solid plan. So we're really hoping, because eventually, we would like to see that. We would like to see, us move away from the grants, the 2 to 3 year grant cycle where we're looking at enhancements and move to something more, to move to a more permanent model. And I know the hospital would like that as well. So would like that as well. Finally, I'll just take you to page 22. And I'd just like to sort of relay this back to and if we go to the bottom of the page, just to the daily activity reporting. And this will relay back directly to the strategic plan and some of the things that were, came out in the community satisfaction survey. So I'd just like to note, right, like if you look at those, patrol cruiser hours that are being logged. So that's vehicles on regular out in the community on patrol. You'll see like we've nearly doubled our hours, or we've more than doubled our hours since 2023. So that's, that means, as we discussed, right, you're seeing a lot more black and whites driving through the neighborhoods. We're really making, we're really making a push and an emphasis, right, that the officers have all the technology in their cars to be in their cars. They don't need to be in the offices. So they should be out there. We're also, if you look downward at the foot patrol hours and the school patrol hours, you're seeing less significant, but increases nonetheless. And I know for the school patrol hours, I will just say, hey, for 2026 in the next quarter, you're going to see a massive increase. And I know that was something that went directly in our strategic plan, right? Working with the school boards, working with the schools. And as I mentioned to the board when we were developing the strategic plan at the end, one of the comments from all 4 school boards were they didn't want to necessarily see more officers through the school, but they would love to just see a car at the schools, like parked out, especially during drop off and pickup time. So we have, one of the fortunate things about our 5 reporting locations throughout the United Counties is that within 2 blocks of every reporting location is a school. So our officers, especially during that time, they can easily drive 2 blocks away, park, have their coffee, or do reports, or get out of the car and walk around, interact with the parents, students, and teachers. So we've really, really been pushing that. So you're going to continue to see those overall hours increase. And again, relating back to that, to the strategic plan, right? That's really going to, increase that visibility, which we put there as a priority. Pending any questions, Mr. Chair, from you yourself or anybody else from the board, that is my report that I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mark, Detachment Commander? I'll ask Todd to speak first. Thank you. Go ahead, Todd. You have your mic off.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through the chair to the commander. Thank you for your report. And I guess what I really enjoy hearing as a former chair of a school board is what you alluded to in regards to being out in the yards. And we've had the conversation around here, and you've come up with some great ideas, and I appreciate that in regards to being outside the parameters. How does that work in conjunction with where the province stands through the Premier of the Day in regards to want and staff in the schools? Personally, my own opinion, I support your idea in regards to being on the perimeter. I think that's more friendly. People appreciate it, and the intimidation factor is not present. And funding, is there any funding coming from the province to offset your costs by doing this?
Thank you for that question, Todd, and through you, Mr. Chair. So our discussions are with the school boards, Todd. So for them, they're actually in speaking with the school boards, they feel their most actually vulnerable time and greatest time for interaction is actually not us walking through the schools. They actually see it as more of a distraction when school hours are in. They actually prefer us on the exterior of the school during those hours. They're like, this is the best time, right? Because because they say we just get a better mix, right? Because the teachers aren't worrying about teaching or keeping everybody together, right? It's a bit of I'm sure we've all been there, right? We've all got kids, we've all been there for school pickup, right? It's a bit of a smorgasbord sometimes, and it's just nice to have that officer presence there, right? Because it's a much looser environment and really allows for much more natural, organic interactions between everybody. I know that certainly, Todd, when it comes to school safety and the lockdown drills, I am in conversation with all of the schools because of the tragedy that happened out in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia. There is a big push from all the school boards to make sure that the lockdown drills are happening, that we are participating in them, and that we have a sort of standardized playbook. That if that type of thing were to ever, God forbid, ever occur in our area, and we had to respond, that we are responding with a very, very standardized playbook. And we are trying to, I am working with the school boards, and what I have used I've just said, we need to make this simple. We don't need to overcomplicate this. We don't need to rewrite it. Like, we don't need to intermix any roles. Like, we need to be very, very specific about who is responsible for what. So we are working for those. In regards to your question with regards to funding, Todd, so we have not heard anything about any additional funding with regards to the school activities. These are just activities that are an expectation that we as a detachment perform as part of our part of our regular community-based policing. And for me, that's a given for me, right? It should be a part, right? You should know your community. You should know your schools. You should know, it's just a basic fundamental, baseline of general duties policing. I hope that answers your questions.
Again, Mr. Chair, through you to the commander. Yes, absolutely. I support your plan wholeheartedly. I think that's the way to go at it. I'll be careful how I phrase this comment. I think that's the appropriate way, counteractive to the Premier's plan. And I appreciate the plan that you put forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the detachment commander?
Ryan, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, through the chair, and Mark, congratulations on the report. I certainly am happy to see the response to conversations we've had in the past coming through in the report, and the trends, as you've mentioned, all heading in the right way. I guess my comment that continues to sort of stay with me whenever I see these reports is the tremendous amount of resource that are required to deal with the mental health challenges that we have in the area, and the way that we're dealing with it here certainly indicates, trends that are efficient in identifying it. But I hope the ministries have a chance to coordinate their resources, that we try and step towards curing the problem or dealing with it rather than handling it. And I think there's a distinct difference there that hopefully evolution will move us closer to a time when it's not such a resource and there's better quality of life for those that are involved in this sort of tragic situation. So just a comment, and I'm sure that it's not the first time this has ever been discussed. It just speaks to the complexity of the problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Is there anyone else? I don't see any hands, so if Mark, you're done with the report, I'll ask for the motion. All those in favor? Carry. Thank you. Okay, next item is 6.2 on page 23. SDG OPP Detachment Board of 2026 meeting schedule, and we have a motion for that, and I'll ask Kimberly to speak to this.
Yes, it's moved by Member Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Lang, that the SDG OPP Detachment Board approve the 2026 meeting schedule as presented. So through you, Mr. Chair, if you'll turn your attention to page 23 of the agenda package, we have proposed a draft meeting schedule for the remainder of the 2026 year. As you're aware, the Community Safety and Policing Act does require that we hold a minimum of 4 meetings per year. So we've suggested some dates. Meeting number 2, the suggested date would be Wednesday, June 3rd, and this meeting would take place at the OPP Detachment Boardroom in Long Sault. Meeting number 3 would take place Wednesday, September 2nd, also at the OPP Detachment Boardroom in Long Sault. And then meeting number 4 would take place Wednesday, October 21st, here in Council Chambers at the County Administration Building. As you're aware, Mr. Chair, the next term of council does take effect November 15th, so there'd be a little lull before we got the board up, the newly formed board, up and running for the next term of council. So if you're all right with those meeting dates, we can approve them today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. Jim, go ahead, please.
I think my mic's on, but I was just wondering, the June 3rd, does that not conflict with the conference that's the police service conference that comes up in Niagara Falls?
Very good point. We can shift that. I'll work with Detachment Commander Hemrick, and we'll propose an alternate date.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or concerns regarding the dates for the next meetings? I'm just shifting over to the other side to see if I see any hands. I don't see any. Okay. Yep.
Just sorry, Brian, through you, Mr. Chair. If we wanted to set that next meeting date today, would Wednesday, June 17th work for our next meeting date instead of the 3rd?
I think so.
Mark, would that be okay with you? Then we can get it in our calendars.
My apologies. Too many screens to try and open here.
I'll be right back and check my phone.
It looks good for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, that date's open. Is open for me.
Okay.
Do you want to repeat that date again?
It would be Wednesday, June 17th at 9 a.m. We could have it in the Long Sault Detachment Boardroom, if that works for the board.
Yeah. I'm good. Everybody
All
else?
right. So
Yep. Go ahead, Kimberly.
wonderful. I'll send those meeting dates out today and put them in all of our calendars.
Very good. So there's no other concerns. All those in favor of the motion? It's carried. Thank you. Next, we have to go into an in-camera meeting. I'll ask the clerk to read the motion to go in camera, please.
It's moved by Member McDonnell, seconded by Member Wirt, that the SDG OPP Detachment Board proceed in camera pursuant to Section 44(2)B of the Community Safety and Policing Act for an OPP staffing update.
All in favor?